Welcome to the Amplify Good podcast, a podcast for nonprofit leaders brought to you by Anthem Creative. We've spent the last decade helping hundreds of nonprofits build stronger brands, launch engaging campaigns that raise millions, and navigate how to tell their story in a rapidly changing digital world. Now, on this podcast, we share what we've learned along the way, but we also feature conversations with expert guests who are on the leading edge of nonprofit marketing. We tackle topics like leadership, storytelling, exponential technology, strategy, fundraising, and everything in between, and focus on how to navigate change in order to amplify impact and ultimately to become more human. This is the second part of my conversation with Mark, my brother and Anthem's founder, here in studio. If you missed the first part of the conversation, I would encourage you to go back and start with that episode. If you've already listened to that, enjoy the conclusion of my conversation with Mark. Mark,
We're back.
say welcome back, but we're just doing round two here. First episode was really just a bit of your backstory and kind of like starting Anthem, where that came from, your convictions around it, this idea of vision. You kind of got passionate and spicy at the end of Nike and companies like that pouring millions into marketing and advertising to sell you a pair of running shoes versus nonprofits doing the most important work on the planet and like needing to have that same level of belief and conviction and like commitment to excellence and like let's do this thing, and so felt like that was a really good place to wrap. I'd love this episode to be a little bit more practical. Like, let's dive into the weeds. I want to just kind of like crack open your brain a little bit and get your thoughts and perspective on like, where is the industry headed? What is happening in the landscape of, like storytelling and digital and some of these things too, and just camp out on a couple things. Cause if there's one thing that I keep talking about with guests on this podcast is just the rate of change and the things that are coming at us. And it can be a little bit disorienting, and you hear everybody talking about all kinds of different future pathways of where all of this could go. And so one of the things we're trying to do internally, even as an agency, as a team, is figure out what's not going away, like what's not going to change, and in fact, what as AI and exponential technology comes and starts to disrupt various aspects of our lives, what becomes more scarce, what becomes more valuable, and what can organizations, lean into and plant their flag in, knowing that like this is going to continue to remain true. So before we get there, I think one of the things I'd love to, do as a continuation of your story, because there was a really important season in your development, and obviously as your brother and as your business partner, like I remember seeing this, transformation happen in you in some ways. And I think it'd be really interesting to unpack that a little bit with you as well. But we had a unique opportunity that came up for you to go and spend a season. We didn't really know how long that season was going to be, but as a fractional VP of marketing at Angel Studios, with a particular focus on helping them navigate this phenomenon that had exploded within their ecosystem called The Chosen, which is, the most successful TV show, crowdfunded TV show of all time. And it's this unique retelling of the story of Jesus in a new way for new audiences, and became this global phenomenon. And so you were kind of, parachuted into that. I remember sitting in the boardroom with you going like, should we do this? Should we not? Does it make sense? And there was a little bit of like, I think we'd be stupid not to. Like, we have this opportunity to jump into, the weeds of this thing that is taking the world by storm. And so you saw it, and I loved your approach to this. You saw it as both a learning opportunity for you, a growth opportunity, but also a place to add real value and to kind of like test, your mettle and see what you're made of as well. And so maybe talk me through a little bit of your own mindset going into that. And, because I can confidently say this from my perspective and vantage point, like who you were when you started that versus who you were 2 years later when you kind of came back into Anthem, full time. There was a radical shift that kind of took place in you. So I'd love to unpack that a little bit and what that season was like, and maybe what are some of the things that you learned and took away from it.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, I think to lay some groundwork before jumping into that, I think there's something that sort of has come up in the process of building what we're, building Anthem and doing the work that we do with nonprofits that I just keep coming back to, that sort of drove a bit of us doing this.
Right.
And me saying like, hey, I'm going to go do this thing. It's this idea that mediocrity is not an option. And when you take that on as a value, that like what we're doing matters, the causes that we're fighting for matter, for us to exist, to be worthy of partnering with, there is absolutely no option for mediocrity.
Right.
And if that's true, then as leaders, we need to be willing to take big swings, take risks, get into different rooms. And something that's interesting with that is that like when you start to feel as a leader, like if you're leading a nonprofit or anything, you start to feel a cap on your belief set, on your like a ceiling, which is a fake thing. It's it's not, ceilings are how you place them.
It's just limiting beliefs that are defining the boundaries of what you think is possible.
And I know that sounds, I don't know, whatever. It sounds flippant. And there are harsh realities. I get it. Yes, there are hard things. But like we were talking about in the first episode, but then why is it that organizations with all the same makeup, but with just different leaders that have different belief sets about what's possible, are leading entirely different realities for their organizations? One fully funded, completing projects, moving on to the next, and flooded with people coming to them, and the other just not believing that they can even get the $22 to change the doorknob.
Right.
And so I think for me, in like the process of building our team here, I realized that there were moments where my leadership style and sort of conviction would get in the way.
Right.
And so when things got a little bit harder in a moment, I think people always sort of looked to me and said, well, Mark will probably dig us out of this. And I think that the best thing in that moment was like, hey, I want to go experience something where I know that the ceiling's higher than the ceiling I believe in right now. And equally get out of the way to let our team realize that they can handle this without me needing to bail out any moments. And not bail out, or to kind of step in and lead, that they can lead. Their ceilings are higher than that too. And mine is too.
Right.
So I think that began the process of when this came up. It was like, let's do it.
Well, because I think like leaders always set the ceiling, right, for any organization. And I kind of described you as like Anthem's center of gravity. Like you were the founder, you were that kind of creative voice. And, early on as the team was being formed, and your level of skill set and competency is like, you used to do the design, you used to do the editing, you used to do the copywriting and all the strategy and everything. So you were naturally the person that our team would look to when it was like, oh, we've got a challenge that we have to overcome. And so you were kind of the center of gravity. Everything flowed to you and through you, which also created a bottleneck within the agency to some extent. It put like a ceiling on where we were at. And so I think that season did two things. One is, like you said, it lifted the ceiling for our entire team, because all of a sudden it was like, okay, Mark's not here.
We got to take care of this.
We got to figure this out without him. And so it caused us to level up. It led to some key hires for our team as well, which like strengthened some of our skill sets and, like compensated for you not being here for that season. But then I think also for you in your belief system and your leadership, it was like, I remember you saying like the ceiling just blew right off completely. Yeah. And, you and I doing this in the early days, there was sometimes a sense of like, I don't know, are we good enough? Like the imposter syndrome that would sometimes come in, like, who are we to think that we could work with that organization and build a campaign that's actually going to work, right? And then you go to The Chosen and Angel Studios, and there was sort of like a double whammy of our team, and even for me too, like having to step in and fill some of the shoes, of leadership. Our team having to take on more responsibility to free you up to go on this kind of wild adventure.
Yeah.
And then also your own kind of experience too.
Yeah. What it did for me is it made me realize that everybody's just figuring it out.
Yeah, come on.
And, we're getting calls from Good Morning America and, like whatever, just all these names. Everybody's posting. It's like, Gwen Stefani is into the show. She's watching. Okay, cool. Jonathan Rumi during that time is like hits 2 million followers on Instagram. He's like way past 4 million now. But, at the time it was just like everybody's minds were being blown at the rate of success of what was happening. Had $1 million days, like single day $1 million boom on certain launches and things that were happening there, as they were kind of growing. And what I realized is that people within what they were doing, there was a certain, the show was good, but there was a certain genius in the world that they were building. And we were just talking about this, like brand, there's an aspect of brand that is about building a world. And a lot of some of these American organizations, I would say, really understand that a lot more than than Canadian organizations do. And man, like there was a world being built there. And that audience that was into the show and into what they were doing were like all in. They're like, I want the shirt, I want the conference, I want the like access code to the text thread, I want the opportunity to be part of the raffle, to meet the cast. I want everything, man. I want it all. They started changing their wardrobes to teal because that was the brand color. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, no, I know.
And so I helped walk them through a process of like, naming the avatar of the people they served and figuring out. So, and we did a lot of work, like a lot of brand work with them in that time. And then equally development of expanding that world, like their brand world, by then I produced, documentary series that's on Prime for them, called Jonathan and Jesus, which basically was me sitting in that seat from the marketing perspective, but then going, guys, I think people would love to see a lot more from us. And what if we just showed them behind the veil of Jonathan's life and how this has just transformed things for him? And when you listen to that, it's like, oh, that sounds fun. Maybe that's a good idea. Let's give it a go. Let's give it a try. But for me, like the underlying piece of that strategically is like, guys, this is brand.
Right.
This is about making people feel part of something. It's about culture. It's about feeling, I don't know, like you're part of something. And so the add-on to that helped me personally was that I realized that, there isn't really a ceiling. The stuff that was happening there was wild. It was like, one day we're interviewing, a producer in LA that Jonathan was going to be working with. And that producer goes, oh, do you know that Alice Cooper actually would probably be into meeting Jonathan? And so he's like, he texts me a number and he thought it was Alice Cooper's manager, that he was sending me his manager's number. And so I just called it. And then this lady, hi, Cheryl here. I'm like, hi, Cheryl. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, what do I say if I called the wrong number?
Right.
I was like, sorry, I was looking for Caleb, who's supposed to be my manager and then I'm like, for Alice Cooper. And she goes, oh, this is Cheryl Cooper. She's like, oh, this is Alice and my shared number. And I'm realizing, oh, I'm on the phone with Alice Cooper's wife.
Right.
And this is their cell phone. And all of a sudden, I'm just there. And she's the kindest lady. And I'm like, hey, I'm doing stuff. I'm producing a show with The Chosen. And Jonathan would love to meet you guys and talk about like how you've navigated fame and the fact that you like the show and all these things. It's like, oh my gosh, we'd love to. Well, come meet us in Arizona. And next thing you know, we're like in Arizona sitting down with Alice Cooper and making a part of a show with him. And it's no different than you texting me and be like, I have a friend named Caleb or Bill who's like a carpenter guy who could probably help you with the wall you need to build. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'll call him. His wife picks up. Oh yeah, this is Bill's house. And all the way through, like at every single level, everybody was still looking for something, looking for acceptance, looking to be part of something.
Right.
And there was something even within that show and that culture, and I'd say within the brand. It sounds crass to even say brand because it's just like, what is brand? Brand is like something that you feel a part of. It's something that it's a feeling that you're left with. It's something that you want to associate with.
Right.
And like, that's what all these people at every level had. From the lady contributing $20 to want to like keep the show going and watch the show,
right,
to Alice Cooper and Gwen Stefani.
Right.
Yeah. So anyways, that was, I'm really grateful for that season. It kind of took the roof off a little bit for me.
Yeah.
We've maintained some like beautiful connections, relationships within that world, and still part of some things within that world, which is a gift.
Well, I think one of the things I saw in you through that season 2 that's like relevant, and I'd love to transition into like, how you're bringing this into Anthem as well. I think for you kept using the phrase like, man, I feel like I'm going to school a little bit, right? Like it was you, in one way, learning a whole world at a level that was, felt new at the time.
Yeah.
We referred to The Chosen as like a rocket ship. It's like you're being strapped onto a rocket ship, and something that is like really truly a generational phenomenon, and being able to be there at the ground floor as that's happening and taking shape, and like, shaping the marketing of it and bringing new ideas and recommending strategies, and I think I know you don't love talking about this all the time too, but like it was your recommendation and strategy that they go to box office. And like even the team at The Chosen was like, people will never show up to a movie theater to watch episodes of The Chosen.
Like live events of a TV show.
Yeah, like live events of a TV show. And it was like not really a category. No one had done that before. And then you kind of architected this thing, and you guys piloted that and tested it. And now it's the way they roll out every episode. And you executive produced the Christmas special, and like knew that music would be this extension of the brand and the heartbeat and the DNA of what they do. Yeah. And so I think
and Christmas, I'm like, people are going to want to gather, guys. Exactly. Let's try. Let's just do it.
Yeah. And I think that's part of your DNA as well, is like, hey, what if it worked? And so like that, the dreamer and the strategist kind of meeting together with the creative curiosity. I think that's one of your, superpowers as well, is like insatiable curiosity of like, wait a minute, what if this worked? And I think for you, what I saw is like this real confidence builder through that time, because I think, in the early stages of that season, because it was about 2 years, I remember, feeling a little bit, not insecure, but sort of like, I don't know if I belong in this ecosystem, or like sitting in the room with, Dallas Jenkins and Brad Pello and, these like former Hollywood execs and people that you kind of look up to, and you're like, well, surely they have all the answers. And then, all of a sudden you're recommending strategies, and those are the ones being implemented. So I think all of a sudden you felt a sense of like, oh, wait a minute, like, I have value to bring here. And, that kind of built your confidence over time. And I think you then brought that back into Anthem with this like renewed sense of possibility and this expanded ceiling for like what we're capable of doing. And I think you like infuse that energy back into the team here as well. And so I would love to just camp on that for a second, like the mindset expansion, the belief, the possibility. Yeah. And how does that translate to leaders?
Yeah. I mean, there's this feeling and thought that I think a lot of people have when they see people who have like, experienced some success, is that they think that person, everything that they think is just genius, and it's always just better. And the reality is, most of those people have teams all around them, directing and giving them like, no, that's not a great idea. We should refine it this way. And B, a lot of their genius ideas were kind of like once in a while. And so I think what I found when I kind of stepped into some of those rooms was that by doing agency, you exercise like, you have to exercise a part of the brain often that's constantly like trying to find great ideas.
Right.
And being in those rooms, I just realized that, everybody here is trying to find a good idea too.
Right.
And so that really, for me, I think was an expansion of, Mark, you're not trying to get somewhere. It's not that we've arrived. Like nobody's arrived. Anybody that tells you that they've arrived, I'm like, caution flag. But it's that, no, dude, you've got value. Like you're worthy of being in the room. And so I think that's a big thing.
Yeah. Well, I love that, because I think you kept reflecting to me, and like this is like private conversations behind closed doors, but like, let's put them out for the internet. Why not? Hey, because there were a number of times where you kind of said to me, you're like, dude, like they're just like us.
Yeah.
They don't have all the answers. They don't have it figured out. They're not more sophisticated or advanced. Like, yes, there's this thing that they've created that is being successful, but like when you're sitting in the rooms of like, how do we guide this and build strategy, and what's our, marketing plan, and how do we build the brand and reach new audiences? Like none of them had any more answers than the other. And so I think there was a sense of like, oh, like we're actually able, to offer strategic insights and value based on our, 10 years of working with all kinds of different organizations and launching things too. Right. And so that was like wind in our sails. And I just remember like that. And I think there's been a distinct like marker in Anthem's history too, of like you leaving, spending 2 years, on straps,
kind of on and off.
Strapped to the rocket ship of the chosen, learning, going to school, and like, having your confidence built and creating value in new ways. Our team having to level up, in new ways as well, removing you as the center of gravity and in some ways the bottleneck for our team.
Yeah.
It really transformed the agency, and I think it transformed your belief system as well.
Yeah, honestly, I remember in that time being like, let's believe for more. Like believe for more.
Yeah.
And we're no different. And I remember coming in to Angel and The Chosen, and there was a weekly meeting with Dallas, who's, writer, founder, director. And Brad Pello, I love Brad, amazing man. He's now the CEO of The Chosen, he's president there. And 22 other people. And the ship was moving so fast that the default mode that they all just said, sure, let's just do this, was that they were like, Dallas doesn't want to repeat himself, and so just let everybody be in that meeting. And I came in and was like, whoa, time out. We got a junior designer in a meeting with the founder and and Hollywood exec so-and-so, because I get that it's moving really fast, you guys, but and I'm sure people were like, didn't love what I did immediately, but I came in and I wasn't trying to make any power moves or whatsoever. I was just like, this is not efficient, you guys. This isn't how you do it. And I, week 2 or 3, I trimmed that meeting to 6.
Yeah.
And it was like me, the 2 founders, including, Dallas and whatever, a couple other people. And we just streamlined. And it was like, guys, we don't need a 2-hour meeting and 22 people.
Right.
That's got to stop. We got enough things to take them off Dallas's plate, be trusted with them, and then take them into the rest of this team and build this out. And so, a lot of that, just what that did for me is made me realize that, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there. The biggest organizations we've worked with that seem like the strongest brands out there, you peek under the hood sometimes, you're like, whoa, guys, red flags. This isn't how you do it,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm grateful for that season.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah, me too. I think there's so much that we've benefited from in so many ways too. So let's shift gears a little bit, like maybe piggybacking on that, like from that season and this kind of expanded mindset that you had and, lifted ceiling on believing what's possible. Like what's your perspective? How has it shaped your thinking about brand and storytelling at scale? And, like the conviction that you have for smaller organizations that are not a TV show that's being watched by hundreds of millions of people globally, but like, the value of brand, the importance of brand, and storytelling and film as well as a medium.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like it's one of the most. I think it's very misunderstood. Like brand is a community. Like brand is a thing that stamps a reason for gathering around something specific. And so, why do people do that? Like people do that. They gather when they feel a sense of value and connection to what you're doing. Does it matter to them? Does it identify with who they want to be? Like I want to wear Nike or whatever because I kind of feel like I'm a Nike kind of guy. Like if we really are honest, why do people wear brands? It's like, because they associate themselves with what they believe that the perception that gives them as a person. And so when it comes to these, to nonprofit and to this space, more than ever, and more than any other industry, nonprofits should have brands that make you just feel like, man, I want to be part of that. Man, that matters. Like, man, I hope they send out another rally cry soon because if it meets my schedule or my capacity, I'm in. I'm in.
What I think brand in and of itself is about story. And like one of my
Yeah.
favorite definitions of brand, and I don't remember where I got this from, but it's that brand at its core is the story that people tell themselves about who they are.
That's good.
So it's like, I think we get brand wrong in lots of different ways, where we think it's about like telling our story and our mission and our values and, the work that we're doing. But I think brand fundamentally is about telling your story in such a way that it allows an individual to, like you said, associate
Put
with
themselves
it.
into that story.
And they can put themselves into the story.
Yeah.
It's, like Donald Miller in Story Brand is like, you're not the hero of the story, you're the guide. And you want people to be able to come in and see themselves in the story. And I think the best brands, they give people that sense of like, by associating with it, whether it's a charity or a product, it allows them to tell them a story about who they are.
Yeah.
And it either, affirms, certain beliefs that they have or convictions or values that they have as well. And so I think, and this is one of the, talking about conviction as we look at the future and where things are going, like we keep using the phrase, like brand is the last defensible moat. Yeah. I think brand is one of the things that will matter more than anything. And, the organizations that invest in brand strategically and intentionally, I think are actually going to thrive in the future. And there's lots of reasons for that. But, would love to hear your thoughts on the evolution of brand as we move into like this exponential age.
Yeah. It's more expansive than people think. And actually it's really fun. Like Nick, who's here behind one of the cameras, said this yesterday and it like really hit me. It's like, it really anchored it even more deeply for me that it's world building. And, so as we look at like what's coming or what the future looks like, I think it's, the world of really polished perception, that used to really work.
Right.
Because it was hard to do things that were polished. It's not that hard anymore. What's hard now is to be really real and really open and let people into your world. And organizations have a hard time doing that.
Right.
I can't tell you how many times I've sat on behind the camera interviewing executive leaders, like high level executives who clam up like crazy in trying to, communicate their vision and trying to, put their thoughts out. And that's okay. But yeah, like I love when I see executive leaders in these organizations that aren't afraid to, take the veil off and say, guys, look. And then with conviction, if you believe in what you're doing, there should be nothing to be hidden whatsoever.
Right.
If you have conviction in what you're doing, that it is good and right and for the sake of others and it needs to exist, it needs to happen to help these people, then man, open the world to people to see it. Hey, today we're going here because we got to figure this out. And we're doing a meeting today. I really hope it goes in our favor because we need the government to say yes to this idea. Hey, would you support us as we kind of move towards this? Hey, meet these people. These are the people behind the work that do the thing that, go to the, trenches and deal with the whatever. And I just think, you got guys like Gary Vee who are like document over, what's his line?
Document, don't create.
Yeah, document over create. That's great. But he's been saying that for years. And he's been historically quite correct with it when it comes to a lot of marketing stuff.
Right.
But it's that it's that and culture, the culture of your people. Do they love being where you are? You as a leader, do you have conviction? If not, maybe it's time to find somebody who has conviction. That's the thing that in the first episode, I was like, that might, shake some trees a little bit, but it's like, get out of the seat. That sounds harsh.
Right.
But I'm like, we can't afford to have leaders that don't have conviction leading organizations that desperately need conviction.
Right.
That'll fix some brand problems. Right there.
Yeah. There's also this emerging of like in corporate circles too, the CEOs with personal brands. And like it's been really well documented and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think it's like companies that have a CEO with a strong personal brand, they typically see a 20% lift in revenue just because of that phenomenon. I think in nonprofit, not that you necessarily want the like one charismatic, magnetic leader to always be, front facing, but I think
risk to that.
there's a way of, and I think you mentioned like vulnerability and authenticity and conviction, those things, and leading with those without needing to have the like perfectly polished, sanitized, like really, really clean, aesthetic and persona. Like that builds trust, I think, more than anything else. And trust is, I think, the currency of, brand. It's like it builds trust in such a way. And without trust, especially from like a fundraising perspective, right? Like nobody gives to an organization they don't trust. And, building brand in a vulnerable, authentic way out in the open. And I think often that is driven by the leaders, and you're seeing, the CEO kind of personal brand phenomenon play out. That I think there's a playbook there for nonprofits as well.
Yeah. I just wrote this just recently as I was just consolidating some of our thinking around Anthem, why we exist, and some of the things that we're doing. And one of the lines that's kind of been in the background for us anyways, and that I just was like, oh, I want to elevate this one. It was, do it with conviction or don't do it at all.
Oof.
And I'm just telling you right now, if every nonprofit leader listening to this could do one thing for their organization, it's do it with conviction. If you want to build a brand, do it with conviction. Because you know what doesn't matter at that point, if you've got the conviction, how polished it is.
Right.
Because if you just flip your iPhone app or your phone up and you just go, man, and you just put it out there over a scripted, polished in studio thing, I just think there's such power in that conviction.
Is there a generational dimension to that? Because I think when you look at demographics too, right? Like the younger you skew, the less there's an appreciation and appetite for like that really polished thing. They want the like, just give me the raw behind the scenes, like flip open the camera, no makeup on. Like that's what they want, that real raw, kind of interaction and engagement. So I think there's a demographic component to this, which is interesting because I think so many of the conversations we have with leaders of organizations in the work that we do, we hear this, like for 10 years now, we've heard the same thing on repeat, that, hey, organizations come to us because their average donor is 72 years old.
Yeah.
And they understand that the clock is ticking, and, the majority of their support is going to disappear in the next 20 years. Yeah. And they have spent the last 20 years tailoring all of their brand, all their communications, all of their marketing to their base. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like, but young people aren't resonating with what we're doing. And it's like, yeah, because they don't want the polished, the sanitized, the safe. They want the raw, the authentic and the vulnerable. And I think that's a really hard pivot for organizations to make.
Yeah, well, and it's not that they don't want it. I think they're fine with it. It's just like, be authentic. And that's why I think I come back to conviction, because if you truly have conviction, you'll do what you're doing and say it with authenticity. And people just want to believe you.
Right.
That's it. Like they want to just believe that you believe in it, that it's worthy of the fight, and that you'll do what you say. And conviction is like, I know we've just been talking so much about conviction.
Yeah, no, but it's a great theme. Like I think it's unexpected. I love that that's kind of what keeps coming to the surface for you.
Well, and the brands that we all love have conviction.
Right.
They know who they are.
They stand for something.
Yeah. And the ones we want to work with, the ones that we are working with, man, they stand for something. And that's beautiful. That's something you want to be a part of.
Right.
So yeah, there's so much more to this whole conversation, but I do think, I think that's a unique takeaway that's like really feels like a good home to sit in for me when I think about brand.
Yeah.
Is this conversation and this idea of conviction.
I guess that filters into storytelling too, right? Like, because brand obviously influences storytelling because it fits under category of brand too, but like when you think of storytelling like that, does that, from a film perspective, or like your brain as like a, creative director, like what does that shape in terms of how storytelling happens for an organization with conviction that wants to like, show up with authenticity and vulnerability?
Be more human. Show the people. Say it like honestly. And there's one thing that cannot be taken away from you, and it's the reality of the humanity of the things you're doing.
Right.
And so to not put it on display and to not, tell those stories. And man, there's these beautiful, like long form examples of things, even in like, big for-profit brands that are using long form.
Right.
Like in ways that are, blowing minds in terms of results and things like that. That's why Yeti has a whole film department, which people don't even know about, And so they're just making films. They have a media company now, they're kind of, everyone's backing off like the Red Bull idea.
Right.
And yeah, man, I'm just dying to see more nonprofits like understand that realm and the capacity of storytelling that lives there. IGM did this beautifully a few years ago, where they went in and did reenactments of some stories, like a film. And I felt like I was watching a short movie.
Wow.
And it was like, these were like scripted, acted, because they can't show you the stuff that's going on. It's pretty wild. And man, I just love those bold moves. Yeah. And I'm like, Jamie's going to be on here. He was
tomorrow he's going to be here.
Oh yeah. He ran IGM for years.
Yeah.
Man, I love those bold moves. I want to talk to people like that. I want to talk to people making those bold moves, and the ones that get that story. Story really matters. I mean, story brand. Everyone in this space probably knows story brand, and they should, and they should, because it's the idea that like building a brand is actually building a story that people want to put themselves in,
right?
And they're the hero.
Yeah, and ultimately, like our human brains are wired for story. Like it's the way that we've, for centuries, connected with the world. It's the way that history has been passed on, is through story. And I think there's just an intrinsic nature of like when you tell a great story, people lean in. They care. I think there's almost like a formula that I'm hearing you develop unintentionally here too. It's almost like have conviction, believe what's possible.
Yeah.
Show up with authenticity and vulnerability, and then capture that through story. And in some ways, if you can do that, if you can take your conviction and you can, like somehow translate that into storytelling that really matches that tone and that conviction and has that authenticity built into it, then by nature, it builds trust, it builds brand, it causes people to lean in. And I think again and again, we've seen this play out in our work, right? And I've been saying this for years. I've gotten pushback, from some people that don't love the language, but it's like whoever tells the best story wins.
Yeah.
Like when I was 26 years old and had no idea what I was doing, building an organization, that was one thing that I'm like, I just know that if I tell the best story and if I tell a better story, that's gonna drive outcomes. And I think that's still true to this day. And I think we keep going back to this mantra of like, the most human organizations are going to win in the end. Like as we move into this age of AI and robotics and all the things that are coming at us that, we can't quite really understand the implications of them just yet. Yeah. There's this core underlying thread for us that like humans win at the end of the day. And, you can get lost in the noise and the chaos of all of what's coming. But I think at the end of the day, especially for nonprofit organizations, because most nonprofits are solving deeply, fundamentally human problems and challenges. And, they're appealing to the humanity of donors as well, right? And so like everything is about connection. And I think the more you lean into that, the further you lean into that when it comes to brand, when it comes to storytelling and doing that with conviction, I think those are the organizations that are going to find themselves in a really exciting place in, 3, 4, or 5 years.
Yeah. Amen.
Awesome. Dude, we could do this forever.
I know.
Let's do it again. I know where to find you. So, I love the conviction thread. Again, we go into these conversations not really knowing what's going to come out of them, but I think that note of like, do it with conviction or don't do it at all. It's a great place to end. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate you.
Yeah, dude, thanks. This has been fun.
Thanks for listening to the Amplify Good podcast. And hey, if you found this episode valuable, would you share it with someone that you think would benefit from it? And don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. It would also mean the world to me if you would drop us a review on whatever platform you're listening on so that we can reach a wider audience. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.